Louisiana's top state and congressional officials were quick to voice their thoughts on the verdict.
David Jones has been watching the reactions come in, and he joins us now.
Meg, Lauren, from the Speaker of the U.S. House of Representatives to the state's congressional delegation down to the governor and Louisiana Attorney General, electeds came out swinging against the verdict.
Governor Jeff Landry says, quote, "This is a dark day for our country, where the very justice system that had been a hallmark of justice for hundreds of years has been replaced with a two-tiered system based on politics." Meanwhile, Louisiana Attorney General Liz Murrill writing in part, quote, "The trial was a political witch hunt and a travesty of justice. The biggest loser is us. One judge and prosecutor have made a mockery of our justice system." Murrill also calling for the verdict to be overturned. On the congressional front, Speaker of the U.S. House of Representatives, Louisiana Republican Mike Johnson, wrote in part, quote, "Today is a shameful day in American history. Democrats cheered as they convicted the leader of the opposing party on ridiculous charges predicated on the testimony of a disbarred, convicted felon." High-ranking Republican Congressman Steve Scalise wrote a lengthy statement saying in part, quote, "It was clear from the beginning that President Biden teamed with heavily biased DA Alvin Bragg to go after President Biden's political opponent, regardless of wrongdoing, while hardened criminals are set free in New York to commit more violent crimes against innocent citizens." His statement went on to criticize the judge himself for allegedly showing anti-Trump bias. And Scalise was critical of the star witness, former Trump attorney Michael Cohen, calling him a, quote, "convicted perjurer."
Basically sounds like Donald Trump gave him his talking points. But again, it's expected. He represents a conservative pro-Trump district, and so he thinks he's doing his job.
Republican Congressman Clay Higgins wrote, quote, "The New York trial was 100% rigged. This perversion of justice will not stand. Trump will win on appeal and again in November." While Congresswoman Julia Letlow says, quote, "It was clear from the beginning that this trial was about politics, not facts or the rule of law. Ultimately, the voters themselves will be able to deliver the final verdict on November 5th. Louisiana Senator Bill Cassidy said in part, quote, "Given the way the defense was conducted, the trial was managed, the jury was instructed, and the DA's desire to fulfill a campaign promise, the guilty verdict was not surprising. The jury was led to believe that 2 misdemeanors make a felony and that a state court could enforce federal law. None of this seems right."
Senator Cassidy did say he disagrees with the verdict, but he actually gave procedural legal reasons as to why he disagrees with it.
Nothing yet from Louisiana's Democratic Congressman Troy Carter or from Republican Senator John Kennedy. We do have calls in to both the state Republican and Democratic parties, but have not heard back. Lauren.